the midwife of the earth. Mary was the first one out each morning, her silhouette dark against the silver mist of the Narragansett woods. She knelt in the damp soil, her fingers moving with a sculptor's precision. In Portsmouth, she had felt like a ghost, but here, she was the midwife of the earth. The peas were already hooking their tiny green fingers toward the sun, and the medicinal herbs, the tansy and the rue, were pushing through the ash. To Mary, every sprout was a victory over the fire that had taken so much. She didn't just plant for food. She planted for the sheer joy of seeing life return to a place that had once known only smoke. The guardian and the apprentice. Near the rising skeleton of the new house, Samuel worked with a quiet intensity. Beside him stood Peter, his eyes wide and eager. Samuel didn't just show the boy how to notch a timber. He taught him how to listen to the wood. "The oak tells you where it wants to sit, Peter," Samuel would say, his large, calloused hands guiding the boy's smaller ones. Peter was more than an apprentice. He was the bridge to the future. In the sweat of their shared labor, a bond was forged that was stronger than blood. Peter watched Samuel's every move, learning that a man's strength wasn't found in a musket, but in the steady, honest work of building a roof for those he loved. The language of the land. Inside the bark shelter, a different kind of building was happening. Mary's daughters sat in a circle with Peter during the heat of the afternoon. They had lived among the Narragansett people long enough to catch the cadence of their tongue, a language that sounded like the wind in the pines and the water over stones. They whispered the words to Peter, Woniton for "it is good," and Cuppamumsh for "I shall protect you." As Peter repeated the musical vowels, Elizabeth watched from the corner, her heart swelling. They weren't just teaching him words. They were teaching him how to live in peace with the land and its first neighbors. The cradle of hope. But it was in the evenings, by the amber glow of the hearth, that the true heart of the home was revealed. Elizabeth moved with a new heaviness in her step, her hand often resting on the curve of her stomach where their first child waited for the world. Samuel sat near her, his shadow long against the timber walls. He wasn't working on the house now. He was carving the cradle. He used the finest cedar, its scent filling the room like incense. He sanded the rockers until they moved as smooth as a heartbeat. As Elizabeth watched him, she felt a profound peace. This was the loving, happy home they had dreamed of in the crowded streets of Portsmouth. Here, in the wild heart of Kingston, they were surrounded by the things that lasted. The smell of Mary's blooming garden, the strength of the house Samuel and Peter built together, the ancient, beautiful words the daughters taught by the fire. When the cradle was finally finished, Samuel placed it by the hearth. It sat there, empty but full of promise, a vessel of hope in a land that was finally, beautifully, at rest. Mary's journal was filled with beautiful stories of her growing family.
The war had left the valley hushed. The hearth was cold and gray, but Mary knelt within the dust to call the green away. With silver hair and hands of earth, she did not look behind, for in each seed she saw a birth, a home for all her kind. Beside her, where the timber rose, young Samuel swung the blade, while Peter watched with eyes of those who see a future made. The boy, an apprentice to the oak, the man a steady hand, rebuilding every dream that broke. Upon the quiet land, and in the shelter's amber glow, where cedar scents the air, the women watched the shadows grow, and shared the heavy care. Elizabeth, with child and soul, and sisters by her side, who kept the family spirit whole, and let the light abide. They spoke the tongue of forest wind, the Narragansett's word, and taught the boy that kin and friend were names the spirit heard. Between the Bible and the sky, they wove a peace so deep that even when the storms went by, the cradle still would keep. From ash and salt of Portsmouth shore, they brought the embers home to build upon the forest floor. Beneath the valley dome, old Mary smiled to see the leaf. The daughters sang the line, a life reclaimed from fire and grief. The Taft and Holland to soon become the vine.